Good evening and welcome to In the Park, baseball podcast presented by Wake Up Sports. Tonight we're going to have a quick Labor Day special episode for you guys. We're going to talk mainly playoff baseball. I know we're about a month away. We're going to make our predictions for the playoffs, the wild card, and we're going to make our predictions for the World Series. And then we're going to do something a little fun, and we're going to talk about, who we see as our favorite players for every MLB team. It's going to be something quick and fun for us to do, and we're just going to run through it here. Joined with me tonight, we got Comic and we got Matt. So I hope you guys are ready for a good episode.
Hold on. All right, go ahead.
Ready?
Rock and roll.
So I know we always go over the standings. I don't want to reiterate that again, but we'll just go quickly here through these ones. I got them pulled up here on the side.
I can't hear you. I'll be right back.
All right.
His audio. That's all it is.
So in the AL, you've got your AL division leaders. We've got the Tigers, the Blue Jays, and the Astros. What do you guys feel about that? Are we going to see those division leaders change in this season? We got about a month left of the season. Do we think we're going to see one of these guys fall out?
What I'm thinking here, I'm thinking that they're gonna not fall out. I'm thinking they're gonna hold on to it. But on that same token, though, you never know with baseball. You never know.
Yeah, baseball is they call their extra playoff spots. They call it the wild card. They call it the wild card for a reason, because it really is. It's a wild time. I mean, a lot of these division leads, they're going to come down to the last day, the last week. So, Comic, you're a Red Sox fan. You and the Yankees are both sitting at 76 wins. You got the Blue Jays at 79. What do you see as far as that division? Where do you see it falling?
I see it's Toronto hanging on with it. With the Red Sox playing the Yankees as much, I think we've played our limit for the year. So in that fact, you can't throw them in. Can't go head to head anymore. You just have to go what you would hope. If I was a Yankees fan, the Red Sox lose the rest of their games. If I'm a Red Sox fan, hoping the Yankees lose the rest of their games. It just depends on what the remaining on their schedule is against. Boston could have had a very easy week, and we let the Pirates take 2 out of 3 from us, which kind of pissed me off. But one of them I could deal with. Saturday nights I did not like.
Yeah.
I believe they gave up 10 runs.
Yeah, 10-3 on Saturday night.
And I believe Friday was 5-2 or 5-3 with Scales. Of course, you can't. The National League favored right now for the Cy Young, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it just all depends on who Boston has remaining on the schedule.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring up the schedules here. I got Boston's up. I'm gonna bring up the Yankees too, because I think those are the two teams that we're looking at in the wild card. Where we stand now, we've got the Yankees with a 3-game lead from leaving the wild card. We got the Red Sox 2.5. They're right there. They're both 3 games behind of the Blue Jays as far as the division. I think the one determining factor is both the Yankees and the Red Sox. Although you guys lost a couple to the Pirates, 7-3 in your last 10. Yankees are 7-3 in their last 10, and the Blue Jays are 5-5. And they honestly have not been playing that good. Their wins are wins, but their losses are bad losses. So I'm with both of you. I do think that the Blue Jays hold on just because they've been so consistent. 5-5 in your last 10. That's keeping it right there, keeping it 500. So for the Red Sox, we'll get your intake on this, Comic. So you just had 3 against the Pirates, and you dropped 2 of them. You got the Guardians tomorrow through the 3rd.
Okay.
Then you've got Matt's team, the Diamondbacks, the 5th, 6th, and 7th of September. And the Diamondbacks, I don't think they're making the playoffs, but they're making a push. They're playing good baseball, so that's going to be a tough one for you guys, from what I see. Then you hit like a pretty decent stride. You got 3 games with the Athletics, you got three games with the Yankees, and then you have another 3 games with the Athletics. So speaking specifically about that little stretch, you got 6 games with the Athletics and 3 games with the Yankees. Where do you see yourself finishing those 9 games at?
I can see us going 6-3. We have just dominated the Yankees this year. We've only
Yeah.
lost in 8 games. In 8 games we've played, I believe we've won 6 out of the 8. We've only lost twice. So the A's, I could see us going. And you said how many games of the series? 3 games each.
Yeah, 2 3-game series with the A's, split by the Yankees.
If we can take 2 out of 3 from each series, I'll be happy. And a side note,
Yeah, I think
the Red Sox did make a release earlier in the week. They released one of their starting pitchers, which
I'm not gonna lie. I had high hopes. Walker Buehler on the Dodgers, he didn't live up to the hype that came with being a Dodger starting pitcher,
Mm-mm.
and I had hope that when he went to the Red Sox, we were going to see a little bit better of a season, and he did not pan out for them, unfortunately.
No, unfortunately, he hasn't. Just someone I have a feeling, someone, aka maybe the Yankees, will pick him up. Just
They need to.
I could see it. I could absolutely see it.
And I'm not trying to make this a Red Sox Yankees whole podcast, but the Yankees, what's hurt them all year long, and we've had this discussion in 64, is their pitching. Their pitching is absolute poo-poo.
Yeah.
And I can say the same thing about the Red Sox. Even though they have a Cy Young Award, one who is up for the Cy Young Award. And depending on how the rest of the season goes, he could win it.
Yeah.
That was a steal. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dominic.
I thought that was a steal of a pick when we made that trade with the White Sox. We only gave away a couple prospects. One of the prospects I wanted to keep, that was a catcher, because our catching is absolutely poo-poo.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree, and I know Nick's taking the night off tonight, but I know if Nick was here, he'd say the same thing. Catching prospects, I feel like, are held in higher regard when it comes to positional players, because they're few and far between. You're not getting these elite catching prospects like you were, say 10 years ago. Because if you think about it, the most recent ones, you're looking at Ethan Salas, you're looking at Adley, who's had a terrible year this year, and you're looking at Diego Cartaya.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what team he's with. I want to say the Royals, but I could be wrong. But when you're looking at these young catching prospects, teams are struggling to produce and maintain these catching prospects, and having one in your situation, Comic, trading for an elite starting pitcher, I think was the best move that you guys made. You lose a catching prospect, but I think the turnaround, what you got in return, has been tenfold what you would have had with him as a rookie. So I do think that trade was really good. Finishing out the year, so you got A's, Yankees, A's. You play the Rays, and as a current Tampa resident, I've always said this: is the Rays, no matter who they lose to or who they trade, injuries, it does not matter. The Rays go 82 and 82. I don't know how they do it. They just always do it. They are consistently just bang average, no matter what. I mean, the year they lost Glasnow, they lost to the Dodgers. They lost Rasmussen for the year with an injury, and they had what did they have? A 17-game win streak or a 13-game win streak to start the season. I mean, the Rays to me, they consistently find a way. So I think that's another tough series for you guys to end the year. That's right at the end of September. You get the Blue Jays, gets you a chance to gain some ground, and then you finish the season pretty strong. You got the Blue Jays for 3 games, and then you got the Tigers for 3 games. Probably we'll see a Skeens crochet matchup at some point, which might that could determine the Cy Young.
That could determine the Cy Young.
I think we're gonna see something come down to the last week of the season. Right, last 5 of the last 7 days in September, you're playing against the Tigers. We will see those 2 top pitchers then, and then if not to switch the bill too fast, but you switch it over to the Yankees, they don't have an easy schedule either. And Matt, I want to get your insight on this. Just the first couple here, we got 3 games against. They had just dropped a game today against the White Sox. So they lost 3-2 to the White Sox today. They got 3 tough games against the Astros, 3 tough games against the Blue Jays, and then 3 tough games against the Tigers, and then right into that Red Sox series. I mean, what do you see for them as a Diamondbacks fan? Outside looking in, that's 4 tough series coming down the stretch here.
That is absolutely 4 tough series going down the stretch. That's not going to be easy by any means. You look at the pitching. You look at, everybody else that they're facing these upcoming series. Not going to be an easy road for them at all.
Yeah, these are all division leaders. The Astros, the Blue Jays, and the Tigers. They're all leading their division. This is a hard and bumpy road for the Yankees, who I think we can all agree, like Comic said, we've talked about the pitching. The pitching hasn't quite been there. They also haven't protected Aaron Judge very well in that lineup. Volpe started off strong, but unless he's consistently hitting a home run or 2 home runs a week, his defense isn't carrying him that far. He's not been what they expected out of him. The Blue Jays, the Blue Jays. They're consistent. They're consistently good. They're basing it off players that they've picked up. Springer has been, the Springer of old, the Springer of the Astros in recent months here. So I think, and we'll get Comic's take here. I think the Yankees are in for a world of hurt coming down the stretch.
I partially agree with you, but I'm kind of in a win-lose situation because can you hear me?
Yeah,
you're a little.
My parents' next door neighbor is Carlos Rodon.
Okay.
So I would like to see him. I would like to see him pitch well, but I also want to see him lose.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, you're kind of at an impasse there. It was like you want to see him do well, but you also want to pass them in the standings.
Yeah.
Which I completely understand. The only, for me, looking here at the standings, is the only saving grace for the Yankees that I see is you're catching 3 games with the Twins, you're catching 4-game series with the Orioles, another 3 with the White Sox, and another 3 with the Orioles. Is if you're in striking position, you are in a good place those last 10-ish games to really make a push if you're in striking distance.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Agreed. I would agree with you on that.
And then we'll go here, the last wild card team, without going outside who's already in there, is we've got the Mariners, who, I don't know how you guys feel about the Mariners. I feel like they're overperforming. I feel like this is their chance, if they're going to make the playoff, to make a push for a World Series. They're not going to retain Eugenio Suarez after this year unless they re-sign him. I don't think we see Cal Riley have another amazing year like he has had. And if you're looking at their schedule coming down the stretch here, they've got those teams. If you made a list of your top 10 most underperforming teams this year, I think half of these teams are on them. The Rays for 3 games. You got the Braves for 3 games. You've got the Cardinals for 3 games, and then you got the Angels for 4, the Royals, the Astros, the Rockies, and they finish with the Dodgers. They do not have an easy road ahead of them.
And I had been gone away for a couple of podcasts, but I thought the Mariners had a great trade, did great at the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
When you had a third baseman, you had a first baseman, and it's the bat power is what they were missing.
Yeah. Similar to what I always say about the Yankees is, the Yankees have a lineup where they just don't protect Aaron Judge. They don't have those consistent power hitters in the middle of their lineup that you see a lot of these teams have, or at least consistent hitters in the middle of their lineup. I think the Mariners, when it came to the trade deadline, they brought in Josh Naylor, who might have one of the best eyes in baseball. I mean, that guy, he can walk, he can hit for average, he can hit for power, he can really do everything on the offensive side of the ball. And to bring in, again, since they had him last year or the year before, Eugenio Suarez at the trade deadline, that's the piece they needed. I do think they make a push. I think for me, between them and Boston are the 2 teams that stay in the AL wild card for sure. The Yankees are my question mark.
Okay.
On that, and I mean, as a Diamondbacks fan who saw Josh Naylor and Eugenio Suarez basically firsthand for a little bit. I mean, dude, they're like point blank simple. That power that the Mariners have now with those 2, that helped them big time.
Yeah,
that is true.
the power they've added is going to project them or propel them a lot farther than what they had before. And I don't think they were a bad team before. I think they just got significantly better since the trade deadline, and they will. That's going to carry them, way further than any of these other teams. I think they're in a prime position to make a real good push in the playoffs.
For sure.
Yeah.
So let's swing things over here. I know we're moving pretty quick for the people at home, but it is Labor Day. I talked to these guys before. We're gonna run through this a little quick just so we can get everyone back to their families and everything. We're gonna swing over here now to the NL wild card. So to give a quick recap for the people that maybe haven't seen it, the Brewers, head and shoulders above everybody else. They're leading that division. The Phillies, who had just dropped 2, if not got swept by the Mets last week. And then we got the Dodgers in the West, who that's coming down. That's ended up being a good division race there with the Padres. So in the wild card, we got the Cubs, the Padres, and the Mets. Matt, what do you think? Out of those 3 teams, do we see one take over the division lead? Do we see someone drop out? Do you think this is solidified? With teams like the Reds, the Diamondbacks, the Giants, the Cardinals, all fighting for that last spot. What do you see coming down the stretch for this NL wild card?
Now, I'm a little biased here, and this is just because obviously this will get the Dodgers. But if the Diamondbacks play the way they play, yes, they dropped the game today 4-5, but they were scoring runs. Their pitching's looking a whole lot better. I'm thinking the D-backs could sneak into a wild card spot, but we need the Cubs, who a buddy of mine who has been a Cubs fan for years has been used to a second half collapse by the Cubs, which they're prone to do that. And then on top of that, you're getting, the Dodgers that have struggled this second half. So honestly, I could see the Padres get out of a wild card spot and maybe jump to that division lead. And then the Dodgers fall to a wild card spot unless they keep sliding, which the way they have. I don't want to say they miss playoffs, but wild card at worst for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. The NL, just looking at their records of the last 10 here, they're just every team, it seems like, that's not a division leader is falling off. The Cubs 5-5, the Padres 5-5. I mean, a 500 record isn't going to do it for you coming down the stretch. The Mets are sitting at 6-4, and the caveat to that is they've beaten division rivals. They've beaten their division winner multiple times. So, you can afford to lose a couple more games outside of your division, if you're going 6-4. But the Reds, who last week, we didn't talk about the standings last week, but last week, if we would have had, I would have said the Reds were going to make a push 2-8 their last 10. They've really fallen off. And again, like you said, Diamondbacks, they're surging 6-4. The Cardinals, they're staying right there, 5-5, 6-4 the last 10, probably 6-5 their last 11. All these teams are consistently average. There's really no other way to put it. Is that they're staying consistent. They're losing one, they're winning one, and they're going to keep it moving. To hop onto into the wild card teams here with the Cubs, you've got the Braves for 3, which again, that's a good team. They don't show it in their record, but that's a good team. They're playing a lot of the NL East here. You got the Nationals for 3 games. You got the Braves again for 3 games. And then you got a couple of these, who knows what's going to happen. You've got 3 games with the Pirates, 3 games with the Reds, and then they finish with the Mets and the Cardinals. I don't know how you guys are feeling about it, but as far as the Cubs go for me, with that schedule they have remaining, yes, they have some tough games, but I think we could see them sweep the Cardinals at the end of the season. I think we could see them sweep the Pirates a little bit earlier, maybe go 2-1 against the Reds. And, they play the Mets. Even if they lost 2, I think they'd still be in a good spot.
Yeah, I can see why you say that. But at the same time, I mean, if the way the Cubs keep playing, I don't know. I could drop a few of these if they keep playing the way they have been.
Yeah, just playing bang average baseball right now.
They're playing average baseball.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they didn't do anything at the trade deadline. Nothing.
They didn't do a daggone thing.
And I think that's what propelled them to be one of the worst teams at the trade deadline, because everybody else in the NL made a move, whether it was big or small. They made a move that made their team better. If you're a Cubs fan and you only brought in Willie Castro at the trade deadline, I'm not particularly happy.
Yeah, no, gosh, no.
No, not at all.
Yeah. I think out of these 3 teams, the Cubs probably have the best opportunity. They've got a little bit weaker of a schedule. They're playing teams that maybe aren't really pushing for the playoffs. So, in my most humblest opinion, I do think we see the Cubs in the playoffs. To go back to what you said, Matt, is if we do see the Dodgers fall to the wild card and they make it out of the wild card round, they're probably going to be playing the Brewers at some point. And the Brewers have had a lot of success against the Dodgers this year. I think they've swept them twice, if I'm not mistaken. So do we see another failed Los Angeles Dodgers playoff run with the exception of last year?
With the exception of last year, and I'll go back to 23 as a prime example. With the LDS in 2023, they swept by the Diamondbacks, 2 games in LA, 1 game. And I mean, and again, I was there for Game 3 watching it. I couldn't believe it. The Dodgers, who are usually a powerhouse, tend to choke in the playoffs. 24, obviously.
Let me ask you this. Do you think if the Dodgers don't win it this year, that Dave Roberts will be let go?
That they what?
That Dave Roberts will be let go.
Knowing they're not going to let Dave go. As long as the Dodgers, I feel like that's where. But at the same time, with that could be a possibility.
Right.
Yeah, I think their recent success, they obviously had the World Series last year. They've been a playoff team. And I think the thing with the Dodgers is they're not happy to just be a playoff team. They have to make a run, whether it's 1 series win or 2 series win, going to the World Series and losing, or winning the World Series. They have to make a run. And I think if they fall wild card slot and they underperform, we really it's a good legitimate question. We could see Dave Roberts on the hot seat, especially if you see some of these other managers become available. I mean, if you just look at what is it, Hinkie for the Tigers?
I believe
He
so.
got fired when he was with the Astros.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you look at the managers like Hinkie that have come in, or Henke, however you say his name. I don't want to disrespect him, but I think it's Henke or Hinkie.
Hinkie or Hanky, I can't
Yeah.
remember.
You look at what he's done, and they may be looking for a little bit younger than Dave Roberts, somebody that has. I feel like Dave Roberts has lost the passion. He's kind of going through the motions. He knows they're going to be competitive. He doesn't really have to do much. Their team is that head and shoulders better than everybody else when you look at the names. So I do think that Comic raises a good question. We'll have to reevaluate this after the season. So somebody write that down and remember it for a couple, 2 months from now.
All right.
That we
I
could
will.
we got to come back and we got to reevaluate this, because I think it raises a good question. When the standard is World Series and you're coming off a World Series win, if you follow the wild card, you essentially are, you're going to start asking questions.
Agreed.
So that being said, with the Dodgers, let's go into their counterparts with the Padres, who are sitting firmly in that second wild card spot for second in that division. And they've got, I didn't even scroll down yet, but looking at their first couple games coming back here after today, losing 7-2 to the Twins today, but they've got 3 games with the Orioles. They've got 3-game series with the Rockies, a 3-game series with the Reds, and then back to a 4-game series with the Rockies. They, to me, are in prime position. They're like the snake sitting in the grass, waiting for you to mess up. They've got all the pieces right here. When it comes to this schedule, they finished pretty strong. They played the Mets and the Brewers, the Diamondbacks at the end of the season. But as far as the next 2 weeks, you're playing the Rockies twice, you're playing the Orioles and the Reds. They are in prime striking position, which exactly what Matt said. We could see the Dodgers kind of fall out of that position. What do you think, Comic, as far as the Dodgers and the Padres here with this schedule?
Here's the thing about the Padres. If you look, and I keep on going back to the trade deadline, but if you look at all the players they've always traded, you could have a separate team. Like if you wanted to do just like a Boston Red Sox 2.0, you could do that with as many players as San Diego has traded. If you look at the Nationals, a lot of their players were on at one time the Padres lineup. But the Padres have the pitching to do it. I will say that. To me, they have the best closer in the game right now. That's just my opinion. You can take it what you want to take it as. If you like my opinion, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But he's a good young starting reliever. So, but then again, part of me feels with Dave Roberts being a former Red Sox, and he won a World Series with the Red Sox, I would like to see him win another World Series title. So it just all depends on how you feel about that certain team, who they're playing.
Right.
Yeah, I think we all agreed a couple weeks ago when we were talking trade deadline. The Padres, they made the moves that they essentially became a World Series or bust for the next, this year, maybe next year. They got rid of a lot of their prospects, and we'll have a special guest here in a couple weeks that is a big Padres fan, and he can give us a little bit more insight on them as far as what they gave up and what they brought in. He's super knowledgeable guy. So we'll save that conversation for a couple weeks from
Can
now.
I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do I know this person?
You do. It's Alex, Seahawks
yes,
fan.
It's Alex. I already figured it was Alex.
Yeah.
I with Alex as well.
Yeah, huge Padres guy. He's finishing up school. So for everyone listening at home, this guy that's going to be coming on at least for a couple weeks, huge Padres fan, one of the most unbiased, knowledgeable baseball players or baseball guys that we know. He's going to be a great addition. So if you like what we talk about now, you're going to like it a lot more in the future. And we're going to start, we're going to come down the home stretch here with the Mets. The Mets, to me, we talk about it every week. They're streaky. They win 10, then they lose 10. Then they win 10, then they lose 10. They beat their division rivals. They lose to the Rockies. They're losing to the Marlins. They lost today. They lost 2 of 3, actually. Oh, no, sorry, 4-game series. They lost 3 of 4 in a 4-game series to the Marlins, who I'm not taking anything away from the Marlins. The Marlins are a good team. But coming down the stretch, if you're a Mets fan or you're expecting the Mets to do well, they have to win the games that they should win, because they're coming down the stretch here where they're playing the Tigers, they're playing the Reds, they're playing the Phillies again, who they've had their number, and you're playing the Rangers. That's a potential, playoff team. You're playing the Padres. That's a potential playoff team, or most likely a playoff team. You're playing the Cubs, and you're finishing the season with the Marlins. You really have to take advantage if you're the Mets. And I don't know if you guys seen the additions they've made. They brought in a couple of their young pitchers who have, starred their most recent starts. So I think they're in a good position here. I think they hold on to a wild card spot at least. I don't know if they're going to pass the Phillies. Obviously, if you haven't, if you've lived under a rock for the past week or 2 weeks, you haven't seen Zach Wheeler's out for the season, which is going to hurt the Phillies in the long run, especially not having their, ace dominant pitcher through the playoffs. But that's for another day. As a Phillies fan, I really don't want to talk about it right now. But how do you guys, going over the schedule for the Mets, how do you guys feel about this? They're playing a lot of potential playoff teams here, and they're not winning the games that they should win. Do we see them fall out? Do we see them stay in?
If they fall out, then there's some major in coaching in the organization. If they fall out, if they make a run, then but with the potential playoff teams they're playing, who knows what could happen?
I
Yeah.
see them falling out. And then if that is to happen, with all the money that the Mets spent in the offseason with Soto and then making a bunch of trades, I think you're going to see new management come in.
I'm right there with Comic on that one. Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's another one that we should take note of for the future and see where they finish this season at, and really take a deep dive on, where they're going to go management wise, because I get, you got to give these teams a year to mesh. Baseball, as much as people want to say it's an individual sport, when it comes to hitting, you really have to have that chemistry. You can't have a guy like Lindor start off the year, super slow, which he's been known to do. He starts off the year slow, and then he ends up in the MVP race almost every single year. He hasn't picked it up this year. And with your addition of Juan Soto, who, again, he started slow. He's finishing the year pretty strong, but he started slow. I hate to say that you can throw it back on the management, but you got to get these guys right from day one. To me, it seems like an off-season issue. You didn't start the season strong. I'm flabbergasted. I thought the Mets were, at the beginning of the year, even as a Phillies fan, I thought the Mets were going to be World Series bound. And I've since left that, going forward. I'm with you guys. I don't know if they make the playoffs. And it would be a huge, huge loss for them to not make the playoffs. And I think we have to revisit that in a couple of weeks. Same with the Dave Roberts, is we're going to have to revisit the management of the Mets. But last thing before we get off the wild card here is I want to get Matt. We got you guys. You're sitting 5.5 games out of the wild card, out of that bottom. Do you think you guys, even with the trades you made, do you think you guys can make a push here to end the season, or do we think that we're just going to see you guys sit down there, just kind of hanging out?
With the way the D-backs have played as of recent, they are their offense is there. I'll admit that. Their offense is there. It's just if the pitching's not on point, then they're going to lose. If their pitching's on point, along with the offense being on point, they're going to win the game. But look at the Dodgers series, right? You look at the first couple, nothing. First game of the series, 6-1 game, and they brought the series. They can score runs for them to make a push.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, we talked about that last week, before we came on here and got live, where you said, okay, we gave up 6 runs to the White Sox. We gave up 7 runs to the White Sox, but we scored 12. You can outscore opponents. I think teams like, teams similar to you guys, like the Yankees, that they can put up the runs. They just can't stop the runs. I think you guys are kind of following that same trend, and it's like a hit or miss. You live and die by the long ball, or you live and die by scoring 7 to 10 runs a game. It does not breed success for most teams, but you guys are making it work. And I always mess up the last name. You have to help me out here, Matt. It's Brandon. Starts with a P. Pfadadt.
The P is silent. His name is Pfaadt.
Okay. I think that he's kind of turned around his season a little bit here coming down the stretch. He's not the Brandon Pfaadt that we saw last year, who for most of the season was a dominant pitcher. But he has picked it up. I'll give him credit where credit is due. He has made himself look a little bit better. He's still giving up too many hits, in my opinion. He's those hits turn into runs, and that's what's kind of costing you games here and there. But
you look at, I'm gonna interject a little bit. You look at the acquisition got offseason. Rodriguez. Gosh darn. Again, you look at like Rodriguez. Our rotation is, and I mean, Pfaadt, yeah. Literally started off giving up 2 Dodgers. He gave up 2 in the first hit, right? He gave up a leadoff, gave up another for the Mets, and then gave up and then he kept dealing and dealing throughout the whole game, and then a bullpen always. So
yeah.
If our starters can go out and deal, and then our bullpen can come in and actually do what they're supposed to do, we're gonna make a push. But if it's a game like today where we can put up runs, our starter deals, but our bullpen blows the game, we're not making a run.
Let me ask you this. Would you rather see them make a push, or would you rather them hold back and start playing for the draft?
I mean, at this point right now, with the potential, the NL West has always been in comic. I'm going to just say this. The NL West has always been a gauntlet of a division every year. Yes, the Dodgers have ran it, but look at the four other teams outside the Rockies. Like the middle 3 are always fighting for that wild card spot every year. And honestly, the D-backs could make a run this year, but I don't see them making a deep run, if that makes sense. They'll make maybe a wild card spot, but they could possibly make a push to maybe the NLDS or something, or the NLCS if they're lucky. But if they keep playing the way they are, they're a playoff team. If not, then they're sitting out. They're in Cancun.
Okay.
All right, so we'll go here. We're coming up on 40 minutes. I know we wanted to keep this pretty quick for the holiday weekend. We're going to do this real quick. Give me 5 to 10 seconds. Who do you see winning the AL? Who do you see winning the NL? What's the matchup in the World Series? Who do you see winning it? As of right now, let me hear where your thoughts are at on that. We'll start with Matt. We'll go to the comic.
All right, AL. Give me the. Oh gosh, that's actually tough. Give me the. As much as I want to see the Tigers make it, give me the Blue Jays. I feel like they're the most complete team. NL. Give me the. I'm gonna go with a surprise team here. Give me the Padres. Give me the Padres as a shocker in the NL. And then that would be a World Series matchup, is what I'm thinking.
And who do you have winning the World Series?
Winning the World Series, between those two, Padres.
Okay.
That's a good take.
Huh.
I know a lot of people that would like that. Comic, go ahead.
Well, you know where I'm going to go with this one. This was not really rocket science. I'm going to go with my Red Sox, of course. Got the best young hitter in the game in Anthony. One of the best starting pitchers in all baseball. Then coming out of the National League, I got two teams, and that's the Phillies, even though they lost their starter, one of their main starting pitchers, and the Padres. And of course, I'm going to pick the Red Sox to win it. What are you nuts? Yes, I'm going to.
Honestly, I respect that.
But if they don't win, I'm not gonna lose. If they don't win it and they don't make it, I'm not gonna lose sleep over it.
Right. Same here. If my Diamondbacks don't make it, then I'm not going to lose sleep over it. We weren't that great this year.
The one thing I will say, and I think this is when you stepped away for a little bit, Comic. We were talking about these teams. We kind of went a little bit more in depth on their stats. And I don't have the numbers right here in front of me, but I want to say the Red Sox are top 10 in damn near every important category. They're top 10 in pitching. They're top 10 in runs scored. They're top 10 in batting average. They have, regardless if the record portrays it or not, they've put themselves in 102 run differential throughout the year so far, which is, that's up there. You got teams at 134, you got teams at 160, but, they're up there probably top 10 in run differential. They've really poised themselves, I think, to make a run. And with that being said, I'm gonna follow suit. I really think the Red Sox are coming out of the American League. I think whatever team they play in the playoffs, regardless if it's the Mariners, the Blue Jays, the Tigers, the Astros, I do think they are poised to make a run. They've built that team in the perfect way for them. And again, Roman Anthony has been amazing. He had a stint earlier in the year. They sent him back down. They brought him back up. I think he had a little bit of a twinge of an injury. And he's been absolutely raking since then. It seems like he comes up, hits a home run every third at bat. It really does. Or every third game. And then NL, as a Phillies fan, I really want to say that I do think losing Zach Wheeler, I said either last week or the week before, I'm not completely sold on Christopher Sanchez. I know he's been, probably our second best starter this year. He was not impressive for me the last couple years, or last year or 2 years in the playoffs. And that's where we're going to really need him to step up. I could see us making a run, but if I'm being realistic, and this is going to just the pick that everyone picks, I feel, is going to be the Brewers out of the NL. I mean, 163 run differential, the best team in baseball. Their pitching has stepped up. They've got the young guys. They don't rely on a superstar. They got Euchre magic. I really do think that they're poised, just like the Red Sox, to make this push. And I think we see a Red Sox Brewers World Series. But I will shock the world, and I will go with the Red Sox because all the things I said before. They're top 10 in all these stats. Their win-loss record home and away is damn near, they're obviously better at home, but they're not a slouch away. So playing these away games in the World Series, or throughout the playoffs is not going to affect them too much. They're sitting right about 500. So I think the Red Sox win the World Series over the Brewers, and that's the bottom line because Stone Cold says so.
There we go.
But I think we'll leave it at that. We had talked about possibly talking about our favorite players from each team. We'll save that for another day. I want to get these guys back to their families, back to celebrating the great holiday of Labor Day. And I don't want to take up anyone's time too much. Everyone enjoy your day off tomorrow. Go home tonight, watch some baseball. Go out tomorrow, watch some baseball, watch some college football. And you all have a good night, and we will see you next week.
See you guys.
See ya.